Mic is here. Right?
Mic is off. Now
Mic will be on. Yeah, 1 minute. That's it. It's quite sensitive.
uh, good morning and namaskar to everybody. Today we are in day 4 of the iconic week that we are celebrating in this ministry, and we are very privileged to have with us today Professor.
He's our additional secretary.
Yeah, I met
Right?
sometime.
Change this.
In
Change the
Dr.
seat.
Yeah,
Now you are with the treasury.
Hi. Sir, very good morning again. Welcome the additional secretary, sir. We are very privileged to have Professor Atul Kumar from the JNU today with us. He will be presenting on evolution of rural electrification process in India, a historical perspective. A bit about Professor Atul Kumar. He is the professor and director of the Energy Studies program at JNU. He received his PhD in Energy Policy and Planning from the IIT Delhi, and he has over 2 decades of professional experience. Professor Kumar has led several studies on energy sector assessment, climate change mitigation, energy economy environment interaction, modeling using various modeling and analytical tools for numerous national and international agencies, organizations at various levels. He was instrumental in supporting the formulation of India's National Action Plan on climate change and leading the development of a national level energy economy environment model to support the formulation of India's nationally determined contribution submitted to UNFCCC as a part of the Paris Agreement, as part of the project sponsored by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Professor Kumar previously held the Dean of Academics of TERI School of Advanced Studies and Fellow and Area Convener at the TERI, New Delhi. He was appointed as the Prince Claus Chair Professor on Development Equity at the Utrecht University, Netherlands, 2010 to 12. We welcome you, sir, and I would request JS ma'am to welcome him with a plant.
Welcome.
Take
it out, this mask.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting it's part of you.
Over to Professor Atul Kumar.
Thank you. Good morning to additional secretary, joint secretaries, distinguished guests here, and other participants from video conference. When I was told by Dr. Jain about this particular conference on Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav from the Ministry of Coal, I was a bit surprised what we can talk about progress, though coal has significant role in India's development and my own understanding. Then I choose a topic of rural electrification, where in per se in electricity sector coal has an important role, and rural electrification is an area where we have made significant progress in last few years. Nowhere in the world such progress was made. We talk about US or any developed country. The kind of progress in the last 2 years we have, 2-3 years we have made, that is remarkable. But that journey has several ups and downs from the policy perspective, and that is also reflected on what was the situation achieved on the ground. So I'll touch, can you please go next from the 3 broad timeline: pre-independence, post-independence, prior to liberalization, and post-liberalization area. What were the key development in the rural electrification sector? This chart shows per capita electricity consumption over the time, and you can see there is significant progress over the time, particularly in the last decade, and one can feel good. But if we move to next slide, as compared to world, that's the from the right hand side, the second bar is India. We are not below the world average, but also from other developing country like Brazil, or if we take the comparison with Malaysia and Indonesia, we are very low as compared to, means there is a significant scope for further improvement of the electricity consumption in per capita terms. Though access to electricity has improved significant, now we have all household, census household electrified in India in 2017, whichever is the notified. One may argue that that helmet is not unelectrified, but that helmet does not exist on paper. It is not on census or notified place. It is the people staying there instead of the displacement of that area or any other. Also, as I said, we have made significant progress, particularly under the scheme. Government has announced in April 2018 that all willing households are electrified, and this number between 2 years were in the tune of 25 million households. So that's what we say, this is the one of the biggest program in the world, and particularly on the electrification program, it was really big. Several, though it has a long journey of several decades. Please move to next. This is the chart showing about electricity generation capacity. On the left side and right side, you can see the fuel-wise breakup, and you can see the big chunk is coming from the coal, around 55% in the capacity terms. When we talk about generation terms, it is around 70% terms, though in the last few years, I'll say 5 to 10 years, there has been significant progress in the renewable energy sector, but we are not making progress in the other clean fuel side. Say example, gas, due to variety of reason, gas, hydro or nuclear, they are not expanding the pace. Total electricity consumption is increasing, capacity is increasing, generation need to be ramped up, and that's why coal has the biggest share still. Other good thing about the coal is, as of today, it provides 24/7 electricity on the competitive basis. One can argue storage, electricity storage is there, but that is not cost competitive. Renewables are coming, but there are intermittents, and this intermittence is really a challenging issue in the electricity sector, as it need to be consumed at the same time as it is produced, and this storage become challenge as per the existing technology and cost. And this situation is going to remain for some time, though we have a plan for net zero. And in energy, we talk about long-term perspective, since it has a capital infrastructure which goes to very long time. But energy also have a very short-term strategic aspect, and you all are from the coal sector, and you know during the rainy season last, there was some interruption in the supply, and you see the kind of chaos. So there is a short-term supply scenario always with the energy, and that's for we need to depend on the coal for time being, and there are going to be long-term strategy which we'll go through the next say the 50 to 30 years time frame. But in the meantime, for next 10 to 20 years, coal is going to be main, not in the only the quantum perspective, but also the regular supply perspective. Next slide, please. So as I said, coming from electricity, then the role of coal. Further, particularly, I have focused on the rural electrification. In electricity, there are several domains, but I have decided from the rural electrification perspective, which is in the core of development equity perspective, which is the say the core of our constitution, our governance system, that we are welfare state and equity is the key. So I'll be describing in these three broad time frame: 1990 to 1947, 1948 to 1990, post independence period, and 1990 onward, that is the post liberalization period. What kind of changes we have seen. Next, please. So in early pre-independence era, in very early age, we have started electricity generation in demonstration stage as around the other part of world. In 1879, it was in the Kolkata. Then in the same time, this Crawford market in Bombay electricity was provided. First commercial we have started after around 8 to 10 years later, 1897, a small hydroelectric plant of 130 kilowatt in Bengal near Darjeeling. Then in 1899, 1 megawatt size capacity. And that time it was DC electricity, then it's converted to AC for supply. In 1910, 15 megawatt, a bigger size by Calcutta Electricity Supply Company have done. This was again DC. At that time, then these experience, particularly the Princey State, Mysore, Kashmir, Travancore, they have also started electrification in there. But that time electrification was a plant and nearby area. There was not concept of the big grid. In the 1950, Tata Hydroelectric started their journey in the Bombay, and that's how it proceed. Can you move next? In that time, initially in pre-independence, it was focused mainly on the cities. Population of 50,000 and above, around 20 to 50 some. Villages below 5,000 population was left. However, irrigation was considered one of the option, and in 1933, electric pump started at now UP. At that time there was different name, but still number was very low. You can imagine that out of 5,30,000 villages in India, only 1,500 has electricity, and that electricity may not be for the household, it was for the irrigation pump set, and as I said, that is mainly for the big town, very localized area distribution, wherever it was produced. Next, please. From the regulatory perspective, in 1910, the first Electricity Act came. There was provision of the laying down network, licensee to generate electricity and supply, and it was built on the few acts of the 1887, but mostly on the first award of license, safety norm, and license for generation and distribution. And it was mostly focused both kind of provinces, like Princey State and like in Madras in British rule area, there was also but much progress was on the Princey State. Next, please. At the time of independence, as I said, it was for the town, and then it started for the irrigation perspective. 48, when we were becoming independent, particularly from the policy perspective, we see in the few document that there was mention of electricity for the welfare. But two kind of, and I have picked out two narratives. One, this is from the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was the committee on the public utility of electricity in 1943, and there are a statement, why do we want cheap and abundant electricity in India? And the answer is, without cheap and abundant electricity, effort for industrialization in India cannot be succeed. Another question, how industrialization is necessary, and we want industrialization to bring out people from the poverty. So this was one argument, that we need industrialization to improve, bring out people out from the poverty, and for that we need electricity, and electricity is the cheap electricity and in good quantity. Another, next slide. In the literature we found a statement about Mr. Ananya Bose, or what is his name, came from Cambridge after completing his degree, and he was tasked to prepare a energy plan for India. And you can see the vision from the Mahatma Gandhi, and he was tasked by Mahatma Gandhi. It was not a voluntary kind of thing, not a government policy perspective, but you can see the vision from the government side, from the Indian perspective. Let's say, have you worked out the problem of electricity for every home? What is the cost? My remark quoted by you is a poser for the time being. Since you believe in it, I want you to work it out and demonstrate the physical and economic possibility of electrifying every home of India. So from broader vision perspective, rural electrification was in the core for every household, and also from the industrial electricity perspective, that it will increase the income of people. So these perspective was there from the, and consequently, can you go to the next slide? After independence, we have the new form of governance, and we follow the same pattern of what is today through the regulation, policy, framework as it existed at the time of British. 1948 Electricity Act, and this was in line with the British Act was there for the Government of India Act on the electricity, and there was few issues. First was center, whether it is a state or private ownership. I'll say the three broad issues. Second was state versus union, and third was centralized versus decentralized mode of electricity. So as you see from the perspective from the from Mahatma Gandhi, and at that time government has felt that it is a need of state to make the provision of electricity. So more and more role of the government came in electricity. Other issue is whether it goes to federal or state, and you all know that it is electricity is a concurrent subject. There was one issue on why it still existed while it was the priority at the central level union leadership, why that was still existing at the state level, particularly on the distribution sector. And literature reveals that there was some material aspect. These princely state, they were earning significant portion of revenue through taxes, and that's why it was kept there. On the centralized and decentralized perspective, the idea was to provide cheap electricity, and that comes through the economy of scale perspective. So from these independent kind of generator, we have moved to state level electricity provision. At state built their network, economy of scale was created, and to reduce the prices of electricity. And that's how it started. Can you go next, please? Okay. What happened at that time? There was private player, that was the utility also, and there was monopoly of utility on the tariff. And what was realized, that is industrial and big consumer was able to negotiate electricity price at much better rate than There was no negotiation for the, say, agriculture connection or a rural household or urban household. Big industry and these houses were able to negotiate. And it became a political question at that time. So in 1948, Act was amended in 1956, and it was given for the state utility to take the policy direction on the tariff fixation, even for the financial approval. And this provision also exists today. Though we argue that this provision is which is creating the problem for the state utility, but from that time of perspective, it was correct. For the household and farmer perspective, it was the cost. And that's how the rationalization of the prices was done in favor of agriculture connection and the rural. Agriculture we consider in the with part of the rural electrification process. So it started particularly on the household sector. In 50 to 56, then emphasis was on the irrigation, and then moved from as well for the productivity. It remained there. 60s, it started also for the village electrification. Then in late 60s, there was some drought issue. So again, government has launched the scheme for food for all scheme, and again the focus was renewed on the irrigation pump set energization in the 70s onward, and it was very, very ambitious program. Target was fixed, and we have achieved the significant number. Even government was able to achieve much bigger number than the stated target. 1 million was achieved, then 1.8 million we were reached. But the issue came that is due to this policy direction, and farmer at that time, farmer lobby has started creating a pressure group, and it become a subsidized tariff, become a political issue. In fact, then the competition started between the political party to provide free electricity, unmetered electricity, many things. Lot of theft happened, blackout happened, and many of us, we know in the 80s, these days of the blackout, the problem utility was facing the under recovery thing, and even political party across the line, across the state, they are willing to do, but no one was ready to touch agriculture tariff, and it became very, very political issue. In fact, still it is becoming in the recent state election, you have been hearing these news about different tariff provision from, and that is exists due to the existing provision there on the retail tariff. On that, though on the generation on transmission side tariff is rationalized, but still on the distribution, due to this policy perspective, to take direction, utility need to be take direction from government. Still there is influence of I'll say the political influence from different group to keep that. So this has resulted in the non-supply of electricity. Also the financial poor health of financial utility burden, and it was not, and that is the quote have been always saying, whether you want free electricity or whether you want electricity or reliable electricity. We have started arguing that. So but this time then again the house electrification was not there in the priority. Later in the Radhakrishna committee in 1980 they have formed and said that by 1994 we should have a village electrification complete, and 2000 household level, though it was achieved much later, in 20 years later, but we have started talking. You will see in this right hand side the graph, the village electrification going up and then steady, and there is something interesting here. Initially there was no definition of electrification on paper. So in 70s, 80s, whatever you were saying, Advisory Board of Energy in 85, they deemed, and whoever, State Electricity Board or Rural Electricity Corporation, which was created for that purpose, for provision of electricity to irrigation, there was no mention how they are considering village to be electrified. And then Advisory Board and on the energy in 85, they deemed that is, deemed that it is, that is, if there is a connection for any purpose in the revenue village, it is electrified. So later in 1997, this definition was revised to have at least on the one connection for what purpose in the inhabited area. Also, what happened that steady line, due to these financial poor health of the state utility, in the rural area there was no provision. Electricity was not there at all. Line was there, so there was no power. Transformer were burned out. Utility had not money to repair that. So this was a cold wire. So there was theft issue. Wire is of the aluminum. Material has a value. So people have started cutting wire and selling it. So at that time we have seen the number of connection reducing in life. If there is no electricity, why you pay? And that has what government has realized when we come to the post-liberalization period. Can you come to the next? So in the post-liberalization period, first thing was on the generation side. Independent power producer was created. Power sector regulation came. Privatization, franchisation was created. Accelerated rural electricity program was initiated, and there was several program created, but still it was not moving that fast. From the producer, most focus was on the producer. In remote village electrification or under these program, it was focused on the village electrification, and up to 90% of the subsidy was given through the renewable energy provision. But somehow progress was very slow at that time. Next please. And things moved particularly after Electricity Act. Even before Electricity Act in 1980, when government was facing problem with these state utility and it was becoming, the State Electricity Commission Act was enacted in 1998. Central Electricity Commission was formed, and then each state has started creating their own State Electricity Board, State Electricity Regulatory Commission. Prices, and the idea was to distance government from fixing of tariff. And I'll say that to the level we are succeed in the generation and transmission part, where these are cost plus, but still due to this provision of take the policy direction, still there is some influence, though there is new policy says that is there is now the provision of cost subsidization, and that cost subsidization should not be plus minus 20% of the cost of supply of electricity. So there is provision, and some states are moving there. So open access was provision was there. There was unbundling of the State Electricity Board was then, particularly that blame game, whether it was on the transmission side and there was on the distribution side. ANTC losses was showing very high. These agriculture pump set, there was theft issue. Also there was non-theft issue or non-billing issue on the urban area. These was also loaded on the agriculture side. So there was very poor data management. So several issue was there existing at that time. So we have, after the Electricity Act, we have come the systematic reform in the electricity sector. Private sector came in the both generation as well as the transmission and distribution side. Next slide please. So there was provision. Also on the remote, one thing came later, that is particularly in the rural electrification for the utility, it was becoming very difficult to billing and collection, kind of. So franchisee model was also created to involve other private partner, a small partner, to collect and improve the collection efficiency, monitor at that. They were also given electricity in the bulk and distribution. So different model was adopted and slowly it was started progressing. But main progress was after the Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyutikaran Yojana and Ujjwala scheme, under which after the Rajiv Gandhi was merged with the Deen Dayal Upadhyay, where the infrastructure was provided through the central assistance. Can you move next? Also, obligation of electricity was made compulsory for the both state and central level. State was also made responsible for the provision of electricity. So we have a sequence of program, not only the policy review, but program with assistant, and that has led into the complete, first on the 17 on the village electrification, and then on the household electrification and household label. Though we have a long window, but whatever is done in the last 5 to 6 years was remarkable. And that scale, due to we are big country, so scale is usually big here, but in the shorter time frame was not done in any part of world. America has also done their electrification program on that this tundra and that area where, but they took very long time. There was very different kind of model they have done, and this was different model where I'll say it is a political will kind of thing, where target was fixed and it was achieved. Next please. And there was, you can see also reduction in AT&T losses. This is the picture in, oh sorry, we cannot see from him, 2001, and then blue and was with the very high, around 35% AT&T losses. Next please. And by 2010, significant portion on the, so this was mainly due to the debundling as well as this systematic review across the level. So significant reduction in T&D. We know, don't say them T&D, there are most big chunk of that is commercial loss. It is shown on the lower part, but still a student of the electricity sector consider there is a significant portion of the commercial loss. This is after and before the Uday program. So Uday, before both Uday is left and after Uday, it is right. Next please, one more slide. This is on the household electrification. You can see over 3. I'm sorry, this is a bit smaller. You cannot read the year, but this is in early 2001. This is on to 2001 and later is 2017. Now we have the complete electrification entire country. Next. How much time we have? Okay. So current still challenge, that is subsidy trap, and that's it due to the policy, and it become for the politician a favorite issue at the state level, particularly the distribution tariff. Tariff at the retail level is at the state. So there is a trap kind of situation. It may be good for the shorter time frame for the dedicated provision. We have made the connection level, though now we have the more capacity. In urban we see very frequent, but still reliability, not from the generation perspective, but from the infrastructure due to the technical burnout related issue, that available reliability, we need to work on that, particularly on the rural area, and absence on comprehensive scheme at the state level. You can see these all programs, these were the centrally assisted program. There was state participation, but Such program we have not seen at the
What is exactly this, if I have an intervene here, absence of complementary schemes at the state level means?
We have, say, the Rajiv Gandhi, Gramin, Deen Dayal, all these big schemes are at center level. So there are not such bigger part supplementary. So whatever is the provision, they are doing that. So state are, though there is provision that they are hold accountable for that, but such kind of effort is not seen.
No, this bigger, larger program which are centrally,
Central
yeah, but
with
that,
financial assistance.
yeah, but that would be having that impact at the state level.
Yes,
na?
it
So
will.
what is the essence of this complementary scheme?
Yes, there is not financial provision, much such financial provision. These are implemented at state level, even by the village level. So it need to be, but from the state we don't see such kind of dedicated scheme, targeted scheme. Different state has a different situation. Like in Sundarban, there are other issue in say mine and mineral area, and that's what we are seeing. One thing I missed, that particularly in the development area we have seen the state which were the agriculture dominant state, particularly in the 70s, 65, 70s, there was focus on the provision of the electrification. So line was reached to there. So people have taken connection, and there are effect of, if you see other person using electricity, and electricity has a better quality of illumination, ease, etc. People start using. But states which were dominant on the mineral, say the Chhattisgarh or Odisha, these states were rich, but village electrification was very, very poor. And for these states, different kind of scheme need to be catered, which were much more location specific, though they are centered scheme on Mirigid, and these are working there, but the quality of supply is not comparable with the grid level electricity provision. So overall, these are the broad generic development thing that we say that it should be the holistic area, integrated plan, institutional and governance barrier. It's a broader term that we have. The function we work in the India, different ministries, different department, their jurisdiction. So that's maybe for the different audience. This audience, they know the limitation of these things, and also beauty of these things. There are also benefit. So with this, I'll stop. There is another slide which is more on the complicated thing. So can you move next? Next, please. Next, please. So where we talk about willingness to pay and affordability. So it's a key. You need the increase the income of people, make the, and that this is the truth. If there is no provision of electricity line, there would be no other thing. So people will not stay at that location. People will migrate very fast due to income opportunity and other things. So we need to work on that aspect from the provision and supply perspective. Now we are talking from the state utility. Still there is a what we call the lag of collection. Say 30 years to 45 years, 30 to 45 days of lag in the collection. Then, and it goes to cascading effect till the coal supplier. So they delay in the utility, delay in the coal generating company, and coal generating company and they delay that to coal company. So these kind of, in urban center we are seeing they are coming out with particularly in the housing society, they have come out with these metering, advanced metering. So we can see particularly if there are issue, now the technology of Aadhaar linking, direct benefit transfer is there, and so we need to work on these kind of things as we done in the case of petroleum product subsidy, and take that political domain out from that. So maybe if technology will have much bigger role to come out from that political interference on the tariff setting, which has impacted a lot, not only the state utility, but that has a cascading effect. So with this, I'll stop and I welcome your all questions.
Make it into an interactive mode कर दीजिए उसको.
Mode, I have one, work is done as part of one PhD thesis by my student, though he is a student but he is a senior professional working. I can share copy of that research paper and chapter of that interest, whoever are interested in that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can take questions. We can start from you if you have any
No,
questions. Anybody from here? Animesh? I have just a small question where you can throw the floor open to the people who have joined through the VC. We have the first slide, I think the second slide where you have spoken about the per capita electricity consumption. Yes. We all know it's the lowest in India right now. So this per capita consumption, what is the relationship between this total per capita consumption and our rural and urban?
Usually the way it is defined, it does not define the per capita from only household. It include all electricity from the generation perspective.
Okay.
Some country, and that I'll give the example, some country might have very poor rural electrification, but their per capita, and that example is our neighbor Bhutan. Okay. They don't have coal, so they do cheap electricity also for the heating in industry. Okay. So their per capita electricity was showing very high than India, but that is not. But ideally, if there are abundant source, you will not use electricity for say industrial heating unless there are other compulsion of solar electricity. And we say particularly if we see the corollary around 2500 kilowatt hour is the level where countries migrated that developing threshold, and we are around 1000. And during my career, professional career, I have seen moving from 500 to 1000. And that's what even in the INDC we put the target, that is we will not compromise with our development status, and the target we are talking for 2030 is around 2500 kilowatt hour per capita per annum.
That is overall. I mean, there is, we cannot say at this point of time it is in favor of, like more in favor of the rural or in favor of the urban. It is like overall.
Yeah, overall. But the thing is, if I say at the level, that notion get changed. Earlier we used to have electricity first only for say the lighting was first need. Then say space, we are in the hot area, so thermal cooling. But you go, then you need refrigerator to preserve your food, vaccine. These all are leading to the human. That is also part of the rural development. You will have a healthcare facility where you need a vaccine which need to be stored in the refrigeration. You don't want to throw out your food or perishable goods much longer time. So refrigeration, all these things development need electricity. Though there are other issues that we, rather than using sun drying, we start using drying in the electric dryer. And that kind of things we see particularly in the 3-4 country. If you see the plot of the electricity per capita, electricity consumption and human development index, and over the time you will see linearity. But there are few countries like US, Canada, Saudi Arabia, Middle East, where there is a extravaganza. But country like Japan, they are, and you would like to have in these bracket where you are using electricity for
One
production.
pattern when we see that average consumption is more, either they are cold countries or very hot countries. What percentage of consumption is basically for domestic?
In India, I need to check, but it is less than 25 for the, in Delhi, and that there is a diversity. In Delhi, it is the highest. It is 80, more than
because
80.
Indian weather condition is such, no, neither you require this side nor that side. But if you see the high per capita consumption is in Europe, 6 months without energy consumption, they will freeze. Same is the case in this Middle East region. It's so hot that they have to use ACs. So if the domestic consumption percentage is more, naturally it will raise their per capita consumption.
In domestic, that's why per capita. And we see that kind of jump also in India. In heating, electricity is not the good option. If you have more than 6, then you will use the furnace oil and other heated system. And that has more efficiency. For chilling, cooling we have. And we see that is particularly we have moved to that category where we were using fan without electricity, then fan to desert cooler, and desert cooler to AC single AC. The moment you move from single desert cooler to AC, say it is in 500, it goes to 5,000 bill. So this kind of thing. But overall, if there are industrialization in India, the biggest share is from the industry. And for industry, electricity is not for the heating, it's for the mechanization. But it will depend also. In economy in India, we are seeing a significant portion is increasing in the kind of industry we have, a commercial offices, call center. They use a air conditioned 24-hour, not only the heating, cooling, and very energy intensive space.
Sir, and now this Bitcoin mining will also consume a lot of electricity. So absolutely, it might just shoot up. So this is a new thing which has come on.
Can we ask questions from the people who are on the officers and on the VC?
Parallel process.
Would you like to ask any question, Santosh?
Yeah,
I'll
I'll
just
ask one question.
She's our DDG statistics and our
Yeah, I have a brief
also.
chat with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Santosh.
Hello, Atulji, how are you? Your presentation
fine.
was really very enriching. I just want to ask one question. There was one slide wherein you have mentioned the schemes, and there was one graph depicting cumulative villages electrified. So can we see that graph? Because in that it is the cumulative graph, but there was a kink in between some years. So I just want to understand that.
Yes, I was giving the answer. What happened? First, there was issue of the definition. So definition issue was, there was no definition, so they were considering if there is a electricity connection for any purpose. In village, it would be either for domestic or for irrigation within the revenue village. So it was till 97. In 97, they came out with, okay, it should be electricity connection with the inhabited area, one electricity connection. Later we modified that with the 10% household and also lighting in the public place, etc. But that reduction is due to the what happened. I was discussing about this policy drawback of the policy. Oh, is he on?
Yeah.
Okay. Policy that utility was facing very problem. There was poor collection from the rural side, particularly the agriculture side as well as the domestic side, over metering, tempering, and there was very bad condition of utility. They did not have money to pay for their repair for their infrastructure. So what happened? Transformer worn out, that was not repaired. So there was no electricity flowing in these lines for several years. So people have started taking out infrastructure. There was theft of wire, which is a aluminum wire. Material will always have a value. So if there is no electricity, there is no danger. So then during that time, there was lot of connection was deconnected, and also definition issue. Some of the household was de-electrified. Later we also changed the definition. Then at that time also these household these villages were de-electrified on paper. So both people have taken out the connection and also definitional change.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that clear?
Yeah, thank you.
So, but that was the ground reality. So there was wire but no electricity, and then people have taken, and not for 1 year, several years.
That is why that gap was there.
I would be
Thank
happy
you,
if you
Santosh.
share your presentation with us.
Yeah, we'll be sharing it.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
There is no such copyright.
No, it will be like, since we are at the let me say the receiving end of the supply chain, so it will be really helpful for us. Right. Anybody else from the VC? Thank you, Santosh.
Yes, madam. I have a question.
Please introduce yourself.
Madam, Darshan Solanki, Deputy
Oh,
Secretary.
Darshan. Okay, Darshan. Yeah. Okay.
मैडम आई फील ये जो सब्सिडी दी जाती है स्टेट गवर्नमेंट बेयर करती है इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कॉस्ट रूरल हाउस होल्ड या मतलब गरीबों का जो भी है, तो क्या इसमें फिर क्या होता है कि जो वेल ऑफ लोग हैं वो भी फायदा उठाते हैं, और जो रूफटॉप जैसे सोलर सेल इस टाइप के जो इनोवेटिव मेथड्स ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी हैं उनको वो एडॉप्ट नहीं करते। उनको जैसे दिल्ली में है बिल्कुल मुफ्त बिजली मिलती है, दिल्ली में रूफटॉप पैनल्स हैं ही नहीं, तो क्या सब्सिडी का कोई ऐसा मॉडल एडॉप्ट किया जा सकता है कि इनोवेटिव वेज ऑफ जनरेशन ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी may also be promoted if not taken back? Thank you.
अच्छा, जो आपका अच्छा सवाल था, मैं हाउस होल्ड के पर्सपेक्टिव से ज़्यादा ये एग्रीकल्चर में हर एक यूटिलिटी के लिए प्रॉब्लम है। फ्री इलेक्ट्रिसिटी है, मीटर नहीं है टाइम से, तो उसके लिए सरकार ने अब एक कुसुम स्कीम स्टार्ट की है जिसमें कि सोलर पंप प्रोवाइड होंगे, और उसमें भी क्योंकि पंपिंग की नीड कम टाइम के लिए होती है, तो वो जिस समय उनको वाटर पंपिंग की होगी तब पंप करेंगे या ग्रिड से लेंगे, और बाकी टाइम वो ग्रिड में फीड करेंगे, तो उसको फार्मर को अर्निंग भी होगी, सरकार को वो लैंड नहीं लेनी पड़ रही है, उसमें स्कीम भी है। तो एक बड़ा सा टारगेट है। जो रेजिडेंशियल के लिए करते हैं उसमें हम वो कहते हैं कि डिफरेंशियल कर लीजिए, कि आप स्लैब बनाते हैं कि से 150 यूनिट तक आपको जरूरी होगी लाइट और पंखा के लिए, तो उतने का थोड़ा कम टैरिफ कर लीजिए, उससे 150 से 300 ऐसे करके प्रोग्रेसिवली, जो दिल्ली और बहुत सारे स्टेट में है प्रोग्रेसिवली। पर जो लोग कह रहे हैं कि 300 तक का, क्योंकि अब एलईडी आ गया है तो एलईडी में कम बिजली होती है, पंखे भी जो नए आ गए हैं 40 वॉट के पंखे हैं, तो वो स्लैब 300 यूनिट बढ़ाने के बजाय छोटा होना चाहिए। फिर जो हमेशा हम बात करते हैं कि बिलो पॉवर्टी लाइन, ये डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट ट्रांसफर वाली स्कीम हमको एक्सपेरिमेंट करनी चाहिए पायलट स्केल में, कि जिस पे कर रहे हैं कि यूटिलिटी के थ्रू आता है। अब वो अलग अलग इश्यू हैं कि उसमें सिर्फ यूटिलिटी बोलती है, पर जब हम एनालिसिस कर रहे थे कई यूटिलिटी के, तो वहां पे ओवर स्टाफ था, और फिर भी डिमांड कर रहे थे कि कंसल्टेंट को जस्टिफाई कर लो कि हमारे पास स्टाफ कम है, हमको और स्टाफ चाहिए। वो अनबंडलिंग भी उसमें था कि वो कहते थे कि नहीं, हमारे डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन पे नहीं है, लॉसेस हो रहे जनरेशन पे। तो ऐसे प्रोग्राम चाहिए होंगे हमको, पर इन सब चीजों के लिए ये बड़े पॉलिसी इश्यू हैं और पॉलिटिकल विल चाहिए एड्रेस करने के लिए। और वो इसलिए आ गई थी कि यूटिलिटी का जो वो हो रहा था, लॉसेस था, वो 1 लाख करोड़ से ऊपर पहुंच गया था। तो जब लाख करोड़ तक बात होती है तो सरकार भी ऊपर के लेवल पे हिल जाती है। तो हम ऐसी सिचुएशन में फिर पहुंचने वाले हैं, बीच में कम हुए थे, तो मेरे को बिल्कुल उम्मीद है कि उस लेवल पे थोड़ा सा एक धक्का भूचाल सा आएगा, और हम सब मिल करके नए नए तरीके करेंगे, और बहुत सारे उपाय हैं उसके, और वो ट्राइड और टेस्टेड मैकेनिज्म भी है। हमारी जो गवर्नेंस सिस्टम है उन्होंने अलग अलग चीज़ों में, और बहुत अच्छी चीज़ भी हुई इस बीच की, टेक्नोलॉजी बहुत बढ़ गई है, स्मार्ट मीटर आ गए हैं, प्रीपेड मीटर आ गए हैं, जगह जगह पे मीटर डिस्टेंस पे लगी हुई हैं। तो जो पुरानी चीज़ें थी कि चोरी किसी और ने की, इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट ने की, और आपने लोड उसको दिखा दिया कि यहाँ एग्रीकल्चर में हो रहा है, तो वो चीज़ें अब टेक्नोलॉजी से भी काफ़ी कम हो गया है। तो अगर हमारे सप्लीमेंट पॉलिसी आ जाए, ये पॉलिसी के लिए अब वो पॉलिटिकल विल है, क्योंकि ये बहुत बड़े क्वेश्चन हैं। शायद से आपका आंसर। अच्छा, एक जो क्वेश्चन आपका आया था कि माइनिंग डाटा सेट पे, माइनिंग पे पता नहीं कितना होगा, पर जो हमारा डाटा सेंटर होता है हैवी, तो जो नॉर्मल हमारा ये वर्क स्टेशन है ये 10 या 20 वाट पे करता है। जो हमारी इसमें माइनिंग और इसमें डाटा कार्ड रैम से भी ज़्यादा ये कर रही है हमारी ग्राफिक कार्ड बहुत ज़्यादा पावर कंज्यूम कर रही है, 200-300 वॉट से, और बहुत साइज में अगर आपका है तो वो होता है, और वो डिसिपेट कूलिंग पे होती है। तो यही नहीं है, जैसे हमारे टावर हैं, टेलीकॉम टावर है, उनके डाटा सेंटर हैं, ये सब करते। अब माइनिंग में कितने लोग डाटा माइनिंग में इन्वॉल्व होंगे, वो वॉल्यूम पे मैं जरा, क्योंकि इंडिया में हम 130 करोड़ लोग हैं, उनमें से शायद से 1-2 करोड़ भी नहीं होंगे, पर हमारी जो ज़्यादा चीज़ें बढ़ेगी, जो मेरे को लगता है कि हमारी इनकम बढ़ने के साथ, जो अब तो देखो आप, पहले होता था कि भाई कि क्लास 1 अफसर के घर पे भी एसी दिखता नहीं था, एक दिखिया। अब आप जो सरकारी कर्मचारी हैं सभी के एटलीस्ट दिल्ली जैसी जगह पे जो है एक एसी है, तो इससे बहुत जंप आता है उस पे। और वो है अच्छी बात भी है कि लाइफ स्टाइल, अभी तो सिचुएशन ये है कि हमारी कैपेसिटी ज़्यादा है और डिमांड कम है। बीच में जो प्राइवेट सेक्टर को हमने प्रमोट किया और कुछ और भी चीज़ें थी, असेसमेंट नहीं था, तो हमने एक्सेस कैपेसिटी कर ली है। बल्कि कोल पावर प्लांट हमारे बहुत लो पीएलएफ में चल रहे हैं 57 पे, जबकि 51 में वो वाला इश्यू है। वो अलग है कि हमको लॉन्ग टर्म पे माइग्रेट करना है कोल से, पर अभी वो जितना बढ़ेगी उतनी यूटिलिटी को भी अच्छा है और उतना चीज़ें।
Thank you so much, sir. If there are no more questions, we can wind up.
NLCIL is also there.
So, any questions from anybody else who are joined through the VC?
NLCIL is there. We can see. Anybody wants to ask a question?
अब नहीं है तो छोड़ देते।
नहीं, क्लोजिंग स्टेटमेंट कोल पर तो होना चाहिए।
Yes.
Since you are here in the coal
Yes.
ministry,
Yes.
तो कॉप और कोल का कॉम्बिनेशन जो है उस पर क्लोजिंग स्टेटमेंट आप दे दीजिए, विल राइट अप।
चीनी की कीमत मांग रहे हो आप? नमक की मांग रहे हो?
नहीं, the thread of it was that कि that consumption बढ़ रहा है और बढ़ेगा. That is, so for that you deduce कि what is your status and where you are.
क्लोजिंग स्टेटमेंट दे दीजिए, विल राइट अप।
You want to say something about it, no?
On the though people are talking about net zero, and I do long-term forecasting also, but from my all projection says till 2030, we are going to be a heavily coal dependent, same kind of situation if renewable increases, but hydro is not increasing at that pace. Particularly if you see the hydro was there, and I remember that is, and due to other issue, particularly the rehabilitation and relocation, at today it was very, as of today it is very difficult. That is much more touchy issue, and I have been seen, I was very small kid when this, I come from that area, Tigri Dam started, and I was doing near to complete my PhD when it has started generating. So hydro is reducing, gas power is so high, so we need to supplement these all side. Nuclear, you have seen that 6.8, that is stagnate, and the cost of nuclear power plant particularly is very, very high. And that's what we are presenting, and that time the power minister Piyush Goyal said, as a chartered accountant, or nobody is going to sign PPA at 10 rupees unless there is a political mandate from government. Okay, we need to establish 20 gigawatt and we'll provide that differential thing. No utility is going to. Utility is under the pressure. They have this political pressure from the other side to keep tariff at that level. So coal is going to have till 2030, though there are going to be a strategy, and that's what I am working on, a proposal on the phase out plan for sectoral. So where could be a priority region on the multi-criteria and optimization analysis, where you can say these are the early phase out kind of things, so doing the very highly inefficient coal plant located in the center, close them and increase the PLF of the whichever is the fast location. Rather you will have also the better logistic option also, the disperse that kind. So these kind of things we are going to see. Capacity may not increase. There is already very high capacity, and that is also from the power private sectors that they are going to find very difficult to get new PPA. So investment will not come, but existing capacity require very much high PPA. What best we can do, if we can reduce the amount of imported coal. from non-coking. Coking coal is other perspective. From the non-coking coal, that would be the challenge. And the ideal idea is now the ramp up the
Domestic.
production at much faster, and that I always give that example. We have moved from stone age, not that there was not enough stone, but there was other thing available at that time. So coal will be there, but use as much as till 2030 and that time, and we don't know whether there would be other coal gasification. CCS, lot of work is going on CCS. I was part of this international consortium on the IEA GHG on which look on the CCS. So there would be a competition between battery and CCS for the base load and these kind of peaking. Till 2030, I don't see much role of nuclear, even till 40.
Thank you so much. That was very, very enlightening and very informative slides. Like as you already agreed to it, we can share it with our here. That should not be an issue. So thank you everyone who have joined through the VC with us, and you can just carry on the closing.
Thank you so much, sir, for this engaging conversation, and I hope it is continued, because this interaction with the people who are working in the industry and the academia is very important, because we have a direct tap on what is going on the ground, and we can always share our experiences. We should not be in silos. It's an interactive way. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.